Welcome to the Dad Task Force. My name is Brad. Today, Davon's taking his family on a much needed and earned vacation. So, with me, I have one of my best friends, Ramsey Jackson, and parts unknown to me, or at least that I'm not willing to say. If he wants to tell you, he can. But Ramsey and I have known each other for, I don't know, better part of a decade, and
Sure.
had a couple different collaborations in the past, different partnerships, and have worked in law enforcement training with one another. So it's always great to have a different perspective. And that's kind of the idea of a task force, is you have people from different skill sets and personalities and perspectives coming together to achieve a common goal. Now, Ramsey's got a couple of kids, and I'll let him get into his background and who he is, what he's got going on in the dad realm. Ramsey, thank you for filling in today.
Oh, for sure. You wanted a background?
Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why
Easy.
they should listen, or why they should care about.
Well, I think you're right. You have a task force, and there's all sorts of different people and different roles, and kids with or parents with different age kids, and all sorts of things. And my thing is, I never got married, never had kids. My girlfriend has 2 kids, and I've been around them for about 8 years, almost 8 years. And so the oldest is 14, the youngest is 12. So now we're transitioning into the teen years. And I think the perspective of a stepfather with the kids their father is still in their life. We don't have me and their father. We have a very sterile relationship. It's not very conducive to co-parenting at all. And so that perspective, there's a lot of guys out there with either step kids or their kids are in a step home.
Yep.
And I think that it's important to really identify the similarities and the differences between that role. And I think it is hard sometimes to know sort of where the boundaries are in being a step parent. What can you do? What should you do? Especially when you kind of don't like the other father, right? And I have to defer a lot. We were talking about, I don't know, I'll just slide into that. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and I was saying, I'm always here. I'm here for you. I dedicate all this stuff to you. And we start talking about marriage. And I'm like, yeah, whoever you want to walk you down the aisle, that's your choice. Like, you have a father, if you want to have him, if you want to have me, if you want to have us both. I'm here for support, and I'm not going to start a bunch of silliness if I have to, defer that role, to him. And so he lives in a different state. So clearly they don't see him as much. I'm there, on the daily. I hear the problems, I hear the good things, all of those things. So deferring to a person who's absent and who you don't really like or respect can come with a problem. But I think for me, I just look at what's best for the kids. So understanding those roles, I think, is a really important concept.
I like that attitude. I posted something on Instagram on our page the other day, and it got a mixed reaction. But ultimately, what I had said was something very similar. It's like, hey, dads, the only thing standing between you and a great relationship with your kid is your ego. And that what you're talking about is saying, hey, I recognize that there is a greater role in all of this. It's not me, it's them.
Have
you ever heard the "you're not my daddy" like response when you try to discipline
from mine?
or
No, I that one has escaped me. So when we first met, I went over to her house late, because that's what you do at the beginning. I'll wait till the kids go to sleep. Well, this particular night, they weren't asleep, and they were in bed, but they got up. Now, Mason, he was 5, so he's a little kid. He gets up and he kind of creeps out in the living room, and I thought, oh, okay, well, this is it. This is, what are we going to do? So I had a conversation with him, and instantly he was a cute kid. He liked me. We got along. The next day we wound up all going to a baseball game, and that was it. You know, when she asked, "Hey, do you want to go to the baseball game with my kids?" I had said, "Well, listen, if I participate with you and your kids, then I'm going to actively participate with your kids. So like I will talk to them and hang out. I'm not going to ignore them when they're there." And that was kind of the start of our relationship. Her daughter, however, was 7, and that kid would ignore me. You know, she'd be sitting on the couch and I'd go over there, "Hey, what are you coloring?" She would get up and walk off. And it's rude, but she's 7, you know, and her mother would, "Hey, you can't be rude. You have to answer the question." And I used to tell her all the time, "Just be cool. Let her go at her pace, and she'll do whatever she wants," as far as that goes. And
Yeah.
eventually the relationship sort of blossomed, and now we're really close. Like her mom's like, "Man, you remember she didn't even like you, and now she's, you know, asking you for things." So I think like I never tried to be the father, and I always gave deference to their father. Like, I can acknowledge that you have a father, and so I didn't really get placed in the "you're trying to do too much. You're not my dad. You can't tell me." I, on the contrary, for me, it was them saying, "Hey, you know, you're my stepfather." It's like, well, if that's what you want to call me, then whatever.
Yeah. Now, because their dad is in their life, or at least takes an active role of
Sure.
some capacity, right? There are
Yeah.
those that don't necessarily do that.
Yeah.
Do you think that is why she was cold, or is it just like just new?
Oh, 100%. In those days, that was, I mean, in truth, they weren't even divorced. They had been separated for a year and a half or something like that. They lived in completely different places, but they were still, you know, my lady and her ex, they were still trying to figure out, well, how does our relationship look as exes? You know, when do we see the kids, and, you know, how do we interact, and who are we bringing around? And he had a girlfriend during the relationship, and then he was kind of still saying that was the friend, and then he wound up marrying this lady. So that was rocky, you know. And so the kids going back and forth, they had to hear different stories. You know, children still think, well, wait a minute, this is solidifying that my family is broken up. Like, you got a new dude, what's happening? I was new. There was a lot going on, you know. So that's another reason I'm like, listen, like, you're still with your person. You have your kids are your 2 kids, so you don't know that part of it. But I've never understood parents that think they're doing a great job by saying we have 50-50 custody, right? And these weird assignments where the kid has to move every 3 days, or every 2 days, or every week they have to move. And I'm like, as an adult, would you like to do that? Do you want to go somewhere every 2 days and pack your stuff? Because you invariably forget things. You have to act differently in different households. You have to figure all that stuff out. And I think that level of stress added to just the general instability in like what the kids were feeling.
If you're into content creation, whether you're a streamer, a podcaster, an influencer, or you have a more traditional production need for your content, StreamKits has you covered. From the solo IRL backpack man on the street interview kit, all the way up to a more studio quality 4 camera, 4 audio, stable mount system, they have what you're looking for. Look, in the last year, I filmed plenty of training content for some pretty big clients, and what I started off with was my phone. Then I upgraded to a fancy DSLR, but I had to buy tripods, I had to buy lenses, I had to buy audio interfaces and microphones, and as the camera upgrade or the phone upgrades, now I've got to buy different interfaces so that audio continues to work, and it just keeps draining the bank account for equipment just to put the content out. Now, with StreamKits, you get everything that you need in every package. And you get a camera, you get a couple of lenses, you get the mounting equipment, you get the audio interface, unless you choose not to get the audio interface, and you get high quality production level equipment that's super affordable to allow you to start streaming your content today. Now let's just put it into perspective. A The most expensive kit on their website is 4 cameras, 4 microphones, 4 headsets, all of the interface stuff that all comes together and comes out one USB cord into your computer. $4,199. Go to Amazon and get a dual camera entry-level streaming setup. You're gonna look at about $4,500. Do the math. And it gets better. If you want a 3-camera entry-level broadcasting system for your production quality, $15,000. But StreamKits is a third of that price with 4 cameras, 4 microphones, 4 headsets, all the stuff you need to put it together to make it look cool and then get you on the road to streaming today. Those other systems are great. They probably work really well, but you have to have a learning curve to understand how to use the camera, how to set it up, how to manage lighting, how to manage the data transfer, how to get everything to interoperate and connect so that it shows up on your computer. That takes time. The more time it takes to learn these things, the less time you have to actually put your content out, which then is affecting your bottom line because now you're not making money on your content because you're stuck at the very beginning trying to get ready to run the race. StreamKit systems offer a simple plug-and-play design that shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to put together and get going. And with discount code Taskforce15, you get an additional 15% off of production quality equipment that's so easy to use because it's plug-and-play that you can start sharing your content with the rest of us right now. So go to streamkits.com and enter Taskforce15 at checkout.
That's actually a really good point. Now, from the kid perspective, like as a grown man, I've never had to deal with that, right? But as a kid, I did. My parents separated and they came back together. They separated, they came back together. They separated, they came back together. Sometimes one would stay in the house, sometimes the other would leave, and it would just go back. And it was, kind of a Russian roulette of who was moving out. So it was that is a valid point. What is the solution to that though? Like it's not like John and Jill are getting a divorce and then they're just gonna split custody of the house so that the kids don't have to move.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it depends on your finances, right? Now, let's say for instance you have enough finances to do whatever you want, right?
Yeah.
So I have a house. This is the family house. And then one of the parents is going to move. We buy another house down the street. That's great, right? You visit your other parent. They can visit here anytime. It is what it is. Do we afford like a little condo? So I stay there a week and then mom comes to the week, and then I go to the condo that we bought, and the parents swap. See, the parents don't want to do that because it's uncomfortable, right? They realize that it's uncomfortable and stupid, yet they would put the kids in that situation. Did we have 2 houses when we got hooked up, and now we gotta, we were renting one out, and now somebody's got to go to that? Do you keep the kids primarily in one home, and then make sure that each parent is a quality person in the way that they can visit the home, right? Like the mother's opening up the doors. Yeah, come on in. The father doesn't act like an idiot. He can come over and hang out and participate as a family. He just lives somewhere else. There's a lot of sacrifices that the parents would have to make in order to make it better. I've seen it happen. It's a lot of work on the parents, but the flip side is, my question is, most people don't understand how to have kids in the first place. They think, "Ooh, I'm ready for kids. They're going to be so cute. Me. But you never say at the beginning, right? At the genesis of let's talk about having kids. Am I the type of person who would be a wonderful parent for this child? That's never the analysis, right?
Well,
it's always Go ahead.
Everybody loves them. No, everybody loves their own flavor.
Right. But you got to look and go, okay, do I have the right? We're not talking accidental pregnancies. We're talking, we're planning this out. Am I right? Yeah. Do I have the right money? Am I stable? Right. These are real questions you need to ask yourself. Do I have a place for this kid? Do I have a plan? Do I have, like, with all these wonderful plans, you're still going to have a bunch of problems. but at least you can minimize them and understand, listen, I'm ready to be a parent. She's ready to be a parent. So if we don't work out, both of us are still willing to do the sacrificial things to be great parents. I think it's important.
Yeah, and honestly, to look at it in terms like just observationally, right?
Sure.
You look at these people that are wealthy,
Yeah.
and they're, I've got the resources to give my kids the things I never had.
Sure.
But those are the kids that generally are disconnected because mom and dad are wealthy and they get things, they're filling that hole with things. Now, then you look at the lower income families, or those that are that struggle to keep food on the table and the bills paid.
Yeah.
And they seem to have really strong bonds with their parents, one or both. So, and I say that because I look at how some of these kids that I came up with, they had a lot, but they never have a great relationship with their parents. Yet then I look at the kids that they didn't really have anything. It was like they lived in a rundown trailer, but they are ride or die for their mom. Usually their mom, because dads have been failing for a very long time.
Sure. You know what? I think that makes a lot of sense, and I've seen those examples, but I also, listen, I got some rental property, right? And tenants, they come and go. And so you get to sort of observe how people get down. And depending on where the property is and depending on the price will dictate what type of tenant you have. And I've had tenants in, 2-bedroom, 1-bath place with a kid or 2 parents, and each one of them has their own kid from some other relationship, and they're not expensive places, right? It's not a shack, obviously. It's in a really nice neighborhood, but it's smaller starter type of thing, and they're garbage parents. Like I went in, I had a tenant that moved out. So we settle everything up. You take the damages out of the deposit and everything's good. You go your way, I'm going to go my way. And then I get this letter at the house that's the gas company that this lady hasn't paid the gas bill in 6 months. To your point, you're saying like those types of parents, they don't have the resources, but they do have the time and the energy. But yet the kid, she's always hanging out with this boyfriend, this new boyfriend that she has. And the son, who's in the 6th grade, is now truant from school, because she just basically has neglected and abandoned them. And then the question begs, why is it that you don't have the resources to pay your bills? And is that the fulcrum on which you balance your parenting, right? And I think like there's a lot of different reasons why people are poor. Hence, there's a lot of different types of parents. So I don't know that it's a causal effect of.
Yeah, maybe that was like that observation needs a little bit more fine tuning, because honestly, even if you're poor, doesn't mean that you're going to be a great parent. If you're rich, doesn't mean you're going to be a bad parent, right?
Yeah.
But what matters is the kind of time you spend with your kid.
100%.
Now, if I'm not paying my bills because I'm, diving into a bottle or drugs or
Sure,
other activities that don't necessarily lend themselves to success, then that's time that I'm not investing into my child. Now, if I'm rich and I'm like, well, I've got to provide because, they need ballet and they need a brand new Tesla and they got to keep up with the Joneses too, because I don't want them to be without. And so I spend 18 hours a day at my job and I sleep for 6 hours a day. Well, I'm never investing time into my child either.
100%.
Even though you might be doing it for them, you're not doing anything for them.
Yeah. I have this concept about, well, I mean, I didn't make it up, but enough, right? And people got to know when there's enough. And so, I retired, so I do well with money. And I always say, like, if I have enough money to pay the bills and to get a pizza when there's a sleepover, then I'm straight, right? Like I don't need more. When I always say, well, people ask, well, what do you do with your money? What do you spend it on? You're so young. Did you want another job? And you could double up and you could make this and that and yada, yada, yada. And I always say, okay, well, I'm an active guy. You're an active guy. So I'm not just going to sit around. But what I want to purchase with my money is time, right? Do I have enough money that will free me up to do the things that I want to do, right? Can I go to the Friday night football game with the kids? Can I coach the team? Can I participate? Can I drive you to these places? Well, I have enough money that I don't now have to go out and work these 18-hour days so that I can purchase that time. Now, I don't have enough money that I can get a 100-foot yacht, just cash. I don't have that money. So there's money that's left on the table, but there's never going to be time that's left on the table. So if you're purchasing things with your money and you're not purchasing time with your money, then that's a formula that I'm not doing.
Yeah, that's fair. But again, money is relevant to your situation.
Sure.
I think a lot of guys, and this is again observational, but they don't know how to connect with their kids. So it's easier to be at work and say, I'm providing.
Yeah.
It's easier to put your job on a pedestal and say, well, this is what is keeping this family together. And then and that's actually when Davon and I started this, that was part of it. Like we talked about, there's two types of fatherlessness in a kid's life, right? Yeah. There's the kind where the guy is just like spreading seed and not tending to that garden. He's just like, I'm gonna throw some seeds here, I'm gonna throw some seeds there, whatever.
Absent,
and then you've got the other kind that they pay the bills, but they're never actually, but they don't have a relationship with the kid. So that in and of itself is fatherlessness, because this guy pays the bills, but I don't know him.
Well, go to this though. What's the social currency that men use to purchase value in America? Right? It's power. And power in this society is status, money, wealth, all those things. And so that transcends and it translates into family, right? Like you could have power as a single guy, get some money, and you'll the idea, right? You will attract women. And then when you have a family, it still translates, right? Like, look at me now, I'm providing for the whole family. But for women, and we're talking gross generalizations here, right? For women, the social currency is beauty, but that doesn't translate into family, right? So if you're single and you're young and you're beautiful, that's what you use to sort of climb the ladder and move around, and that's social currency. But when you become a mother, if you're not beautiful, nobody cares. They go, well, she's a mom, right? If you are too beautiful, they think, well, what are you doing? You're too beautiful to be a mom. You need to kind of dumb it down and be more of a mom. And so that social currency changes. But for guys, so that's why guys stay going to work, because it's still a valuable asset, even in the family. Now, to your point, we do need to figure that out, because we are a valuable member of the family, being present, right? So you got to figure out the balance between what's enough and you got to eat, got to go to work. But it's that's why it's so easy to just seamlessly just stay going to work. And for women, they do transition into motherhood role, which, does change how we view them, because they are being viewed, they're doing different things. So she changed. Yeah, she should have. Her life has changed. You should be changing too, my friend.
Yeah. No, you're not wrong. Like, and it's weird. Like, even I went to this SRO training one time in another neighboring city, and the guy's like, I am the guy when it comes to talking about drugs and alcohol. Like, he's Mr. Dare, even though he wasn't Dare. And he goes, today's generation, and honestly, it's probably every generation, he goes, they don't care about don't do drugs, don't do alcohol. Yeah. What they care about is how much money it's going to cost them to do it versus how much money it's going to cost them if they do it in the long run. He said, so I take a financial approach, And I showed them that this is the lifestyle. It's very flashy.
Yeah.
However, this is what it costs. And this is where it affects your ability to become successful and be wealthy. And
Yeah.
he said that he saw a significant shift in the kids that he was, testing
Yeah.
this theory with, when he started talking about finances over, health consequences or legal consequences. Kids didn't want to. And I was like, okay, great. So my kids' school said, hey, can you come and talk about drugs to our kids? It was like, sure. I mean, I'm going to throw this and see what happens. And
Yeah.
I was like, hey, look, this is what you could make. This is what you could make if you start using substances and it kills your brain cells during critical development periods of your life.
Yeah.
Right. So you showed this disparity. I had a teacher walk up to me and he goes, that was the worst thing I've ever heard anybody say. You're not telling them the dangers. You're telling them they won't be rich. I'm not rich and I'm happy. I said, that's fine. But think of how much less rich you would be if you didn't have the brain power to get a teaching degree.
Yeah.
Because you were living in a bottle, or you were, smoking something or snorting something.
Yeah.
If the motivator is money, then why not use that to our advantage?
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think about this. Have you ever met a stay-at-home dad whose wife worked? And then have you ever met a stay-at-home mom whose husband worked? We look at them as a society completely differently,
Yeah.
right? You stay-at-home mom. Oh, okay. Your guy works. You're at home. Okay, that makes sense. Stay-at-home dad. Like, what's your problem? What you're trying to get over? Right, because there's social currency to how much power this guy has, how much money do you make. He may be a great dad. The lady may be just a zesty zillionaire, right? And it's a good situation, but we don't view it the same.
Yeah.
And so the guys that can do it, more power to you if it works for your family. I don't know. I couldn't do it, and but I wouldn't want a woman that could do it. Like, I don't want you to go to work 80 hours a week, but have some projects and some business and some, you got to have something, especially. But then we also have to look at what age is it most important to have the mother and or the father around. And those things change throughout the child's life, right? 100% mother when you're an infant, toddler, but that's a real thing. But your father's relevance is a big deal come preteen, early teen, teenage years. It is a big deal, and you can't just walk in and start up.
No, that's kind of the whole trajectory. So transition to, because that's a great segue. We're launching the dad training this week, and it's how to build relationships, build rapport with your kids. It doesn't matter. Honestly, you should be starting when they are a baby. Mom's doing this stuff, but jump in. There's no reason not to jump into this right now.
Yeah.
But if you haven't, and now you've got teenagers and they're like, whatever, and they don't care.
Yeah.
You can still make the change. You just have to work harder.
Yeah.
And you have to put in the effort, and you have to, I know, Chris Voss, and he has his accusation audit. And we talk about that in the class. You have to be able to drop your ego and show some humility and say, these are my failures over the past how many ever years. I recognize these. I acknowledge these. I'm fixing these. I want a fresh start, and this is where I'm starting with right now. And I've seen it work because it's worked in my house.
Yeah. The mother is we're, like I say, we're gross generalizations, right? The mother's the star of the movie, right? She gets pregnant. She announced, hey, I'm pregnant, everybody. She's great. And they pat you on the back, but nobody cares. And then she has the baby. How are mother and baby? They're doing fine, and then she's doing all this child rearing stuff. And you do watch a lot of it, right? You're not, I'll help, I'll get up and give the bottle, I'll change the diaper, but I'm not the star of the show. I'm just not. And as they go along and they grow up, especially boys, daughters, but it's different. So you get to a point where it's sort of like a weird transition. And it's not one day, it's just over the course. You're more involved, more involved, more involved. And then eventually you're the star of the show. Right. And like I look at my guy's 12. Yeah, you like your mom, but he's starting to feel like, she's not the role model. She's great. She's cool, but she's like a hindrance. If I just keep doing what she does, it's going to be a bad day for me. So I need to look at what's this guy doing? How do I become that? And I tell her a lot. I'm rough on that kid because look around. He's the only boy, right? He's going to be the one that's the tough guy at the door when people come to the house. He's going to be the one that's going to have to do all of the things that I do when I'm too old. So I got to make sure that he has the skills. Like, it's got to be tough at home. So when you get into the world, you go, oh, it's not so difficult.
Yeah, so we say that I tell my kid that all the time, do the small things well, so that when it's time to do the big things, all the little pieces that get everybody else tripped up, it's second nature. If we're not trying to prepare the road for our kids, we're trying to prepare our kids for the road.
100%. Life
is hard. There is disparity in fairness. You're not always going to get what you want. You don't deserve. You're not going to get what you deserve, and sometimes you'll get things you didn't deserve.
Yeah.
Both good and bad, and you have to be able to take it, assess it, and then either play that hand or fold. Like, not to quote the gambler, but like that is exactly that is everything in life. Do I play this or do I walk away? We're not doing a very good job of teaching our kids that.
Yeah, what I find is, so I tell this story about learning about consequences. Like, my kid did something, I knew he needed a consequence for it. I had no idea what the right consequence would be, because the idea is I want to eliminate the behavior and then, bolster the good parts. So I have to figure out a strategy to do that. Right. And I always thought parents just, oh yeah, they got it. You don't. You're just a regular person who now has presented a new problem, and you have to figure that problem out. And I think for me, having the humility to understand just that concept, like, I don't know, it may take me a minute to figure out, the right strategy. And then when I figure out the bang on right strategy, it may be wrong, maybe 100% wrong. And then I got to go back, but it's a conscious effort all the time in raising the kids. What example am I setting? What lessons am I teaching? What am I showing you how to do? And that's a real thing. Pay attention.
Yeah. It's it's so weird. Like, and I don't know how it is where you are, but I know that where we both came from, just it seems as if they're trying to change how we can parent, what we have access to, the information that we should know. Like, as a former, all the things you used to do.
Sure.
In order to be effective, you have to have as much information as humanly possible, so that you don't accidentally run into a landmine and then blow the whole thing up. So if I don't have all the information or know what's going on, so hey, I'll dip my hat to this one real quick. Do you know Jack Schaefer?
No, I don't know that.
So he's a retired counterintelligence guy for the FBI. He wrote a couple different books, The Like Switch, Fibs to Facts, and just basically how to elicit information.
Okay.
And we cite him in the dad course. And one of the things that he and I spoke on the phone last year, and he goes, look, I didn't sell but maybe 6 copies of the book for parents. And he said, actually, I got a lot of feedback that parents are uncomfortable with eliciting information from their kids because it felt like it was a violation of their privacy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, I respect your opinion on that. But in my house, just because we live in America, doesn't mean that it's not a monarchy inside the walls of my castle.
Right. Yeah.
Everything belongs to me. I might make a decision, and it might be the wrong decision, And as long as I can see this is the wrong decision, and then I can like, hey, look, this is at the time, this is what I thought would be the best thing to do.
Yeah.
I can back that up and start walking it back and say, I apologize. I made a mistake. This is what I should have done.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you still did something that you shouldn't have done.
Sure.
And there has to be some sort of consequence, because every action has a consequence. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but you still have to have a consequence.
Yeah. My kid said, hey, I want to work on my bicycle. I said, okay, well, I have a toolbox at my mom's house, got great tools in it. So I had to go over there. I said, well, I didn't tell him this. I took a bolt off of his bike so I could get the right socket. Right. So I leave the house. Yeah. In that time, he came home from school, picks the bike up, tries to ride it. The bolt's missing. Right. He doesn't know. So I get back 15, 20 minutes later. He's all freaked out. Just all bad. Like, what happened? Oh, the bolt fell off, and I don't know. I've been looking for it, and this is terrible. Oh, no. I'm embarrassed, right? Like, dang, I'm the one that set this off. I said, no, I have it. I took it. Part of me was going to, hey, you weren't even supposed to be on this bike. You're supposed to be doing something else. But the truth is, hey, man, my fault. I took it. This is the reason why I took it. I should have probably said to you, hey, don't ride this bike. I thought about it, but I thought I'd beat you back. And, it is what it is. My bad. Let's work on it. It's easy to manipulate a 12-year-old into telling him that he's wrong for getting on the bike when it wasn't his time. But how does he respect the dude that he knows I'm wrong? Like, he's not an idiot. He knows. Like, well, wait a minute. You did all this stuff. Just eat it sometimes. They respect that.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but children, everything that they see, everything that they hear, everything that they observe teaches them how to react and respond in similar situations, because of their brain is developing. These are new things. So when they go to sleep at night, it decides, am I going to keep this or am I going to get rid of this? And if they see it enough, they're just going to consistently say, I'm going to keep this because this is clearly the way it's supposed to act. This is how you're supposed to act in this situation. And this is why dads are so important, because we get to demonstrate the behavior we want our kids to show later on in life. And if you'd have been like, Mason, I'm gonna whoop you for taking that bike. You know better. You should have asked me first. Yeah. You knew it was broken. You still did it. Like, now he's gonna see if somebody, like, rather than own your mistake, because he knows that you took the thing. You didn't say nothing. Yeah. That's on you.
Yeah.
He won't say that, but he'll be like, apparently accountability isn't what's important. What's important is being right. And and the only way to be right is to outmuscle the other guy.
Yeah. Have you ever seen, to your point, have you ever watched your kids imitate you? It is the most uncanny thing. And they always bring up stuff that you didn't necessarily know you were doing, but it's dead on, right? You can clearly, are you guys making fun of me? You're imitating me? Yeah. The other day, we were talking about the wedding, right? I'm going to walk you down there, whatever. I'll sit in the stands, And so Vicky's saying, oh, well, you'll probably cry, because you're sensitive. This is like your girl. You want to walk her. It's going to be one of those days you're going to cry. And so Madeline, 14, says, nah, he probably won't cry. He'll play it off. He'll just say, hey, good looking out, man. I was like, I say that all the time. All the time. I'm like, what? To your point, they are listening and picking up on things, and it's subtle, and you have no idea what your example is until they regurgitate it. Here, let me imitate you and show you what I see you doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and it's not just your kids. It's the kids that hang out with your kids.
100%.
Garrett had a friend spend the night. We don't normally do sleepovers, but it's just like,
sure,
it's one of those things. Rare exception. And we had a baseball game, so we were coaching, and it was I made a comment outside of the dugout to my wife, so I'm the coach and she's like the dugout manager. And I'll tell you what it is when we're done recording. And I didn't even see this kid. Didn't even see him.
Yeah.
And all I hear now is Garrett comes home and like that's their thing is they just repeat that over and over and over. And I'm like, dude, y'all need to stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah.
But it, now I've just embraced it and I just try to
they will
do the
take
best
it.
I can.
They'll take it and run with it. So my kids, my lady's white, their dad is white. The kids are white. They get real tan in the summer, right? But they're white. So Mason, she didn't know a bunch of black people. Their mom, they didn't know until they met me. So I'm a pretty chill dude, right? I try to kind of put that out. I don't yell at the house. Or hey, listen, let's have a conversation. Maybe stern, but I try not to raise my voice, curse in front of them, all that kind of stuff. So this guy, now we all know black people. If you know black people, just listen. He goes to school and he tells a buddy, he goes, yeah, man, my stepfather's black. It's so cool at the house because, black people, they never yell. Now we all know we're one of the louder groups. But to his point, his experiences with me specifically in front of him, with him, and that's a conscious effort to say, okay, well, this is how I want to conduct myself in front of this kid, for this kid, by this kid. And now he's all skewed. I got to take him to the barbershop to let him know, listen, we're Negroes are loud, bro. But yeah.
Well, I learned how to play spades and dominoes from in the Army. And it was a different experience when I got back. I was like, this is, you guys are playing this all wrong. You got to throw cards down. You got to.
We are demonstrative, right? But I think to the point, like I'm very aware, especially as a stepfather, right? Because I'm sorry, because I have to enter into an already established familial setup, right? And so, but I got to be conscious of the things that I do. Like as a father, if your daughter's sick, you lay down next to her. Hey, honey, you got a fever? There's no way I'm ever doing that with my kid. Like you've never caught me laying down next to her in bed because the stepfather, that's suggestive, right? Like there's certain things that I can't do, and I have to pay attention to those things, right? Don't overplay your hand, I think.
Yeah, I think that's wise. Hey man, we're gonna hit time, but I really appreciate you filling in today. It's always a pleasure to sit down and talk to you. Anything that you want to throw out to the world where can, like, just so I didn't say this at the beginning, I should say it now. Ramsey's got a dad podcast as well, and I'll let him talk about that for a second. And then we're actually going to try to integrate it into the same channel so that way you can have both in the same place. It's just going to take some time and technical effort. So with that being said, where can people listen to your wisdom?
So on YouTube, it's Dad and Change. And that's basically where the bulk of our podcast is set up. And then Instagram is Dad and Change. We have a website, right? Humble North America. You can find all kind of stuff there. We're selling shirts, right? Dad and Change t-shirts. You can find those on the website. And that's pretty much it, right? Get a hold of me. If you got questions or topic suggestions or responses to some of the things that we talk about, please let me know.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate it, man. All right. We'll see you guys next time.